Welcome to another episode of Under the Influence podcast in our lovely new studios. I love this place, Jazz. So I'm definitely going to come back here.
I don't know why we didn't do this earlier.
I love the new studio, but I absolutely love this place at Leicester Podcast Recording Studios. Today we're going to be talking to our favourite person. We've had Aunee on a podcast many times. I spoke to her live on the Seek channel. We've had the audio podcast. We did a podcast a few weeks back here. But today being Alcohol Awareness Week, one of the key factors we do want to talk, we've got our special guest here on my left, is Asmita's, Aunee's mum. And today we're bringing this new level of development, and this is about families and the impact of Aunee's addiction that it's had on her mum. So we're just going to bring it out there today. So Asmita,
Yes.
tell us a little bit about yourself.
And how does it feel to be? I know this is your first time you're doing this. So how does it feel for you?
Overwhelming, and I'm quite nervous, to be honest with you, because it's the first time. I think I don't know about how many Asian ladies have actually done this, but for me it's quite scary. It's a scary process at the moment, but yes, I'm happy to be here for my daughter Aunee. And my name is Asmita Pageta. I'm a Leicester based lady, and my profession is I'm a teacher. And yes, and it's a journey that I've gone through with Aunee.
We've heard a lot about Aunee's sort of journey. We've heard a lot about Aunee talking about her addiction, her recovery. Moving over to you, Aunee, so just if the audience have not listened to any of your podcasts before, have not heard you talk on multiple different platforms, tell us a little bit about yourself, Aunee.
So I'm in recovery now, over three and a half years, or nearly over 3 years in recovery. I can't pinpoint exactly. I went through a lot of trauma, child sexual abuse. I went through DV. I went through alcohol addiction, to the point where it was like really life or death. Then I met you. Jazz put me in touch with you. I went to residential rehab. And yeah, it's a story of really adversity and I guess a hell of a lot of success, you know. But behind me, we all know that addiction is a family disease. Yeah. So we've had me talk a lot, but it's lovely to have my mum on to speak about it, how it was for her as a parent and what she went through in terms of my addiction and I guess her addiction in a sense.
Yeah. And that's it. We speak to a lot of people. We spoke to a lot of people, professionals. They spoke to people through addiction. We've not spoke to a parent yet. I think this is the first parent we've had on our podcast. Okay. So, as for yourself as a parent, what was it like going through everything, witnessing your daughter going through addiction and drinking herself to almost death?
To be honest with you, I think. When this was happening with Aunee, from my perspective, I was just thinking that, it's just a phase. She's just going through a phase. She's having her ups and downs like a roller coaster, and she'll come back again. But in the past, I used to see that Aunee would dip down, and then she'll come back again, and she'll be fine. So I used to think it's just one of this journey that she's going through. And again, I think with me, it was a very, very much social pressure, because I was feeling that, oh my God, my daughter is doing what this person is going to say, how this person is going to react. So I think my channel was more about thinking what other people are going to say, what other people are going to think about my daughter. And in that process, like, rather than being a mom and talking to Aunee like a mom, I was more like worried about what other people are going to say about her.
And it's just funny, Asmita says that. We were just talking about that earlier, wasn't we?
Yeah.
On what what people will say and what people will think.
Yes.
You know, and it's almost how the Asian community is just conditioned, isn't it?
Yeah.
How we're conditioned.
That's
what will people think?
Yeah.
And that stops a lot of us coming forward, and people like yourself as well, and speaking freely about how you feel.
And to be honest with you, you are judged. We think that we are not judged. We think that we're living in an era where, you know, we think there's a lot of awareness, which I don't think there is. We think that, you know, we're in a modern society, we're living in a European country, things will be different, but it's not. We still go back into a little community, and within the community, I think the first step that comes in is from your home front, because your home front, you've got your own families saying things to you. You are listening to one person saying something else. You're listening to other person saying something else. Then you are a mom as a parent. You're seeing your daughter. So you think about all these things, and you as a mom, rather than focusing on what's there and what's happening, you tend to put a blanket over it. And I did put a blanket over it, you know, and I was worried about everybody else. And I was told so many things, you know, that, oh, I am not doing this. This is why Aunee's drinking. Aunee's got a problem. You should have done that. So I would go back. I would feel guilty about things. So I'll be honest with you, it was a horrendous journey, a nightmare journey. I wouldn't wish on anyone on this planet. I wouldn't, because living every minute was, I didn't know what was happening. And I felt very much pretty on my own. And to see Aunee like this, and I was thinking, why are you doing this? You know, like I would in my head, I would fight that, Aunee, why are you doing this? Aunee, why can't you just be better? You're such a good girl. You know, like these kind of things were coming into my mind. Then I would think about her children. I would revert Aunee back to think about her children. But there was a point that Aunee was just in her own world. I didn't think it was a disease. As I said to you, I was thinking as a phase. Because when I was a child myself, I encountered alcohol around me. My uncle used to drink, and when they used to drink, sometimes when they used to get together as a child, I knew, oh my God, there's going to be fights, and they would fight, bloodshed everywhere. I used to pee in my pants, standing there, pee in my pants. We couldn't say anything. So we weren't sure that you're going to get hit by anything. And the next minute you'd know that there'd be blood everywhere, and our workers would put sand over it. So it became normality. But they were still worried. But I didn't think it was a disease, and people didn't talk about it. My grandma was a very strong woman. She endured all these things, and to me, it was normal. I thought it was all normal. She's just going through these things on her own. I never realized until I stopped thinking of everybody else, put Aunee first.
And that's made me sort of think that, how does that make you feel, Aunee, that at first your mum was more concerned about what other people thought of your behaviour than actually getting help? Is that the right thing?
I think back then it was really frustrating, because when you're in that addiction, you're very paranoid. You're hyper paranoid, you know. You're paranoid about your own behaviours. You're paranoid about what people are saying, and I already had a lot of anger there anyway. So it was almost like, why can't you think of me? Blah blah blah. But that's the beauty of recovery, you know. Since coming into recovery, I see my mum as not just a mum. I've had to understand my mum as a woman, not just a mum. And I've had to understand, and I do understand, that there is a lot of pressures within the Asian community. It's not just my mum. It's, for most families, there's huge pressure, you know. I'm just grateful, and I am truly grateful, Mum, that there came that time when you stopped caring. And I've said this many times in different podcasts. There came a point when she stopped caring what people thought, and she looked at me, and she started to fight. She fought for my life, you know. And I'm grateful for that, because there's a lot of Asian people out there who don't have that. Do you know what I mean?
And it must have been, Asmeeta, must have been, for both of you, very liberating. As you say, when Mum stopped caring about what people are going to think. And for you as well, to be actually,
yes.
You know, this must feel amazing, to be sat here opposite each other.
Yes.
To really talk openly about it.
It was very scary.
And it's also very brave of you as well.
Very scary, very much on my own. I was very much on my own. And it came to, because I was told that, look at you, you are a teacher, and look at what your daughter is doing. What kind of husband do you have? He keeps on working. He doesn't think of your daughter. She needs to go into rehab. Put her in rehab. All sorts of things were coming up. Maybe you didn't do this right. Maybe you did. So you start thinking of, that was a cloud that was around me, and you start thinking of all these things. And Aunee, in that sense, was just forgotten. And there was a point I used to think that, is Aunee doing it because she just loves drinking? I used to say to Aunee that, Aunee, why are you drinking? Do you just love drinking? And she would just look at me in daze, and she would say, yes, I do. Then I used to think, then I would tell her, I used to shake her, look at your kids, what are you doing to me? I used to say that to her. I used to. So what are you doing to you? Look, this person is saying, and there was just, Aunee just used to be herself. And she just used to look at me thinking, well, I don't know what you're saying, And I used to think, why? Why isn't she not listening to me? I would cry, I would beg her. Do in ours they say that you make mannat, you do that. There was a point I stopped eating rice. I did that mannat. I thought I would do fasting every Friday. I did that. I just used to eat once once a day at night. I didn't say anything to anybody, and I would do all sorts of things. I'm not a godly person. I don't go to temples or anything like that. But at home, I would pray in my own ways. So a couple of people had said that maybe she's been possessed. I'll be honest with you. So I thought maybe that could have happened. Maybe she's crossed paths or something, and this was happened. And I started praying. There's a Hanuman Chalisa mantra that you do that, and I would chant that. And I took Hanumanji's murti, small murti, and I placed it in Aunee's room. And I said to him, I said, look after my daughter. Please look after my daughter. Yeah, so these are the journey, I think, for any parent.
And 100%, that's what I was going to say. And I think any parent in your position, a lot of what you're saying resonates with me, because my mum did a lot of those things.
I've still got that statue. I'm not religious, but it's still on my bedside.
Yeah.
I kept it.
And I think because, for the parents or even the wives or the husbands, there's so much frustration, they just don't know what to do. And I think people watching and listening to this, especially if they're in your position, will be able to relate to a lot of what you've said right from the beginning.
And I think that part where you're saying, why are you doing this to me? Why are you doing this? Did you think she was doing it to you? Did you think she was doing this just because she wanted to be spiteful and she wanted to get at you and it was your fault? And did you actually think that?
I'll be honest with you, I was split into two. There was one part I thought that she's just doing it because she was angry with me because she's talked about her sexual abuse. And during that time, I hold my hands up that I didn't stand up for Aunee. As I said, I took the role of thinking of everybody else and not putting my daughter first. So I think that anger with Aunee stayed with me. So I thought maybe she's trying to do this to punish me. But there was one part of his thinking that she's not, I'm not drinking, she's drinking. But the part of that, because mine and Aunee's relationship was very good, really good when she was young, it was really good. It's to a point when a sexual abuse came out, and then we decided not to take it further. As a couple, we decided not to take it further. We decided, we thought, what, Aunee's young. I was told Aunee's very young. These things get forgotten. I should have known better that these kind of things don't get forgotten. People don't forget things. When we are children, I've never forgotten. I've just talked about it. And this was not even, my drunken uncle were not even doing anything to me. Although sometimes used to get a slap or, but I've not forgotten it. How could Aunee have forgotten it? But I used to think, time will come back. And there was a time that everything was fine. But I didn't know that she was not fine. It was still there. And the anger vented out. And that time I thought Aunee's anger is towards me. But time said to me that Aunee wasn't angry at me. Aunee wanted me to help her because she knew that only my mom can do it. That's why she was doing to me, not to anybody else. Because I used to say to her, why are you always so nice to your dad? Why are you always so good to your dad? Because she was always good to her dad. Her dad would say anything to her. There was never anger towards her dad, no matter what. I say something, that's it. She would get angry. And I thought, why is she doing it to me? So that's why the focus came to, why are you doing it to me?
And Aunee,
That made me.
okay, that's okay. How does that make you feel, to hear your mum, share that? And I know you've known you for quite a while. Dilesh has known you for quite a while. I know that you weren't. I don't believe you were punishing your mum. I think it was a cry for help, wasn't it? Almost.
For me, yeah, at that time, I think I was just a mess. I had so much anger, I had so much confusion, I had so much pain, and above all, I hated myself the most, And I think because I'd never dealt with anything properly or constructively, or had even been given a chance to, I guess. And I guess although the sexual abuse was done historically, the family dynamics and just the way the family dynamics were and the silencing and all that and acting like it's normal was still a very current and present thing at that time in my life. So I was just fueled in all directions, and I was overwhelmed, and alcohol just made me burst. And the only person that was actually there was my mum, And it wasn't that, I think for my dad, I just felt like my dad was never going to do anything anyway. As sad as that is to say, I love my dad and stuff, but it's my mum my mum is very much like me. She has a fire inside her. She's strong and she's courageous. And at that time, I didn't feel strong or courageous, but I knew she was.
I just think it's so, I honestly do, I think this is an amazing moment. It's a beautiful moment to have you both sat here and to be part of this. For me, it's actually a gift, honestly.
And I think listening to what your mum says is so powerful. And now I'm just thinking, has Aunee actually got any questions that she'd like to directly ask her mum about the things that she just said?
Not in terms of that. I think since coming out of rehab and stuff, rehab is amazing. I got to learn a lot about myself. I got to learn a lot about people around me. And I think for my mum as well, I understand why at the time of the sexual abuse she wasn't able to perhaps do what she wanted. As a parent, just as a person, she had everyone against her. Maybe she wanted, and I believe she wanted me to go ahead, and but she had all her family saying, you can't do this, you can't do that, you got to think of your sister, you got to do this, and it was almost like one person, and there's all these pressures from her. So I understand it. I empathise, with her position at that time.
And so there was a lot going on. There's all this chaos going on with the addiction. How did you get her help? Because Aunee talks a lot about this, where you just went from pillar to post. Because at the end, I think I got the referral from Jazz. So somehow along the way, you've managed to get hold of this guy from Derby through a network in Nottingham, but he then ended up putting it all together. So what did you do to get help?
Well, to be honest with you, I think when there was a point that when I saw Aunee like this, it wasn't just Aunee. There was there was a point, and I'm not going to lie. I wanted Aunee to die or I die. I wanted Aunee to die because I could see that Aunee was literally dying. So I thought I'd rather just see my daughter die because I couldn't take the pain, or I die, because I couldn't see it. I couldn't sleep. I couldn't eat very well. I started, having because I'm a person, I don't speak out, I don't talk much. I tend to have this persona that I'm always well. It's my job, part of my job, I think, making sure everybody's okay. But I wasn't okay myself. I started internal bleeding. That was my health. Started going down. My asthma started flaring up. I had sleeping problems. And then when I saw Aunee falling, see Aunee down on the floor when I come in the kitchen, plates have been broken. She's full of, soaked in her own feces. And I had to leave my bag, come from work, take her upstairs, undress her, give her a bath, brush her, feed her. And then there was a point that I was ringing hospital, and when the ambulance would come, I used to tell ambulance, keep her, please, take her, keep her. They wouldn't keep her. There was a time that they kept her in wards a couple of times, and I would ring up the ward and say, please detox her. No, we can't do that. We haven't got beds. Then I rang doctor's surgery, and I said to doctor's surgery, I said, my daughter's going through this. She needs help. Oh, there's help, there's turning point, but there's a waiting list. I said, but my daughter is dying. Are you taking the responsibility of her dying? There was nothing from there. I rang social services, nothing from there. Then I started looking on internet myself. I'd be at work, my break time I'd look for. And then I came across with this place called Backings in Nottingham. That's what let me ring up. I rang up there. And there's a lady called Manjit, really lovely lady. I got to speak to her. And then she spoke to me, and she goes, Smita, I know what you're going through. And I thought, the penny dropped. Because everywhere else I was getting very, very different. There's no beds, we can't keep her, or there's nothing, there's a waiting list, or don't know, keep on trying, turning point, or ring turning point. I wasn't getting much help, that time, when I was saying things. So I was thinking, okay. And when she said that, she said to me, but. I thought, there we go again. There's a but here. My daughter is dying. And she goes to me, I know somebody. You are based in Leicester, so can you bring her here? I said, no, I can't. I'm working, and there's no way I can do that. Because there's a sick recovering happens in Gurudwara, and, there's a guy there, Jazra, he's lovely, and he works. There's a person called Dilesh, Popat. Popat's surname stayed with me because my daughter is married to Popat. So he goes, and he's brilliant. They work together, and he works turning point. And if anyone is there to help, this is the guy. You need to get hold of him. There'll be a waiting list, but you do that. And I said to her, I will knock every door if I can. And that's how I got in touch with Jazz, and through Jazz, came in touch with you. And that was when the ball started rolling, and I knew that was like kind of a little step for my daughter, because my daughter was on the floor, dying. And that was a little step. And I was very hopeful, but I was very doubtful. Yeah. Because I really thought that Aunee will die. I'm not going to lie to you. I thought Aunee will die. Because every time when she used to go to hospital, when she used to have a fall, when she used to go to hospital, the doctor always used to say to me that we are really worried about her kidney, worried about her liver, and if that ever happens, it's going to be a painful thing for Aunee. And I used to say to my husband that if ever comes, I'll donate my organ to my daughter. But I don't want that.
It's strange how you said it, because at one point at the start of this, you said you either wanted her to die, or you wanted yourself to die.
Yeah.
However, now you're saying if you ever needed to give it an organ, you'd be the first person to give it up. So when you look back at all of that, and when you reflect now, you actually didn't want her to die. What you actually wanted is you wanted to get better. Mm.
Yeah.
And that whole concept of you saying you wanted her to die, or you wanted yourself to die, it was just you wanted change.
Yeah.
But Dilesh is also what Asmita's saying is mother's instinct as well, isn't it?
Yeah.
There's all motherly instincts at play there as well. And you'll know that as well, because you're a mother.
Yeah.
And it's, and
I couldn't eat.
Yeah,
I couldn't eat knowing that my daughter is upstairs soaking alcohol. We couldn't eat. I couldn't function. When I used to come from work, honestly, when I used to drive through my road, I used to stop. Every day I used to stop for a second in my car, and I thought, am I going to go to a home? Is there going to be a home? My home will be in fire, something will happen. We used to turn off the gas because we were worried about Aunee. We used to lock Aunee, and people think that locking somebody in does the trick. I used to think that.
Yeah.
It never worked.
So these are
It never worked.
These
Locking doors, windows. Not only that, we used to lock windows so that because Aunee jumped from the window from the top floor. She jumped. So we started locking windows. Then we you know what we did? We started putting locks
on the windows.
and I did do that.
Yeah.
I know it's to do safeguarding issue. I know I could have got into trouble. I know I could have probably gone into prison for it. But that moment, I was thinking, if one day my daughter doesn't drink, I'm giving one day a life to my daughter. And that's what used to kick into me.
And now that you know that if you're alcohol dependent and you don't have a drink, you could have a risk of having a seizure, would that make you do something different? If anything, now touch wood, if anything like it's happened again, would you still do that?
No.
That's
No ways.
And then this is something I was thinking earlier as
No
well.
ways.
Since you've understood that this is an illness, it's a disease, your perception of addiction has completely changed, hasn't it?
Changed. Just changed.
Yeah. So, and this is, when you're talking about locking windows, and even my parents did that to me. My family did that to me. They locked me in. They did everything they could to stop me going out. You know, one day alcohol-free was almost like a bit of hope.
Yeah.
So if you can, and so I understand where you're coming from, but you also understand that if you couldn't stop Aunee, the only person that could stop Aunee was Aunee.
I mean, locking me in just filled me. Firstly, I was trembling. Secondly, I was getting more and more angry. I thought, in a minute, one of these, I'm going to smash this door down, or I'm going to smash the window. And I think I would have. You know, the addiction is such.
It's powerful, isn't it?
I would have given, at that time, I didn't even care about my life. I didn't care it was my parents' home. I didn't care it was a window. I didn't care I was putting the house in jeopardy. If I needed to, I would have smashed that window. It just never got to that point.
When was it the time for you that you realised actually my mum does care during this period?
It wasn't during that period. It was when I went to rehab.
Okay. So throughout that whole period, what was your thoughts about your mum?
It wasn't just my mum. I just thought to myself, like, why are you doing this to me? Like, just leave me and my alcohol alone. For me, the only thing I wanted to protect was my relationship with my lover, my best friend, and that was alcohol. And when people were getting in the way of that, boy, did it make me angry. It made me really angry. It built up resentments in me. It was only when I went to rehab that I understood that the very people that were highlighting my issue and my problems...
The ones who loved you.
Exactly. Yeah.
And that sort of takes us to the next side of recovery rehab. And your mum, I remember being in rooms with your mum. Your mum got family and carer support from Turning Point. I was working with you, and it was you two clashed so much. I remember that one time and both of you I thought you was going to have a fight. This is why you sat opposite each other right now. Me and Jazz can interfere if we need to.
Yeah.
We hope no fighting today.
Mum's so serious. Like,
Yeah.
But you were so
Still thinks you're
similar.
possessed.
You were so similar during this period, and Aunee worked. She's worked her backside off. She's done so much.
Very much.
She's put so much work in. You've put so much work into this as well.
Yeah.
During her addiction, Aunee's put so much work in it through her addiction and towards the end to her recovery. But when did you think that I have my daughter back?
I think.
could I just, before you answer that question, I think the question I wanted to ask someone before that question was, what did it... So obviously I've gone to rehab and I've gone away. Sorry to cut you off, Dil. I've gone away. You've dropped me off. You've heard me on the phone every day, but you've not really seen any of the work I've done. So it's almost like you've dropped me off and now you're coming to pick me up. What were your feelings on that day that you came to pick me up from rehab? What were your fears? What were your doubts? What did you think?
How long were you in there for?
About 4 months.
4 months, okay.
I think my fear was like, nah, it's not going to last. It's going to come back again. Because when Aunee when I was dropping Aunee to rehab, I was really feeling for Aunee. Aunee didn't want it to go. Remember, we were working so fast because she was in detox in Nottingham, and remember I was packing all her stuff, and then we were making sure that she doesn't come back home because we knew as soon as she comes back home, Aunee will not go because she didn't want it to go. She was saying to me, "Mum, I'm not ready. And Dilesh was saying that I think she's not ready, and saying, Dilesh, we need to put her. And then that moment when I took her there, when I dropped her there, I thought, you know what, I know my daughter. My Aunee is one person. If I leave her in a peak of Himalayas and think, people think that she won't find her way, Aunee would find her way home. That is how confident I know about. And I thought, you know what? Then she was ringing me. She goes, Mom, I really don't like it here. And I thought, oh, this is it. This girl will walk from there. She'll come here. She'll find. And I used to think, and every time, I would sit there and thinking, there is going to be a door, is going to be ringing, and Aunee is going to be in this doorstep. Or I'm going to get a phone call to say that in that journey, as Aunee is coming, she's drunk and she passed away. And that, the two fears, Aunee passed away, or Aunee is going to come home drunk. That is the truth.
And so that drive to pick her up, because you picked her up, right?
Yeah.
So that drive, what was you expecting?
I was expecting Aunee to sort of say, yeah, I'm not going to be drinking, I'm in a recovery. That little bit of probably road of hope, but that hope wasn't there. That fear, that butterfly fear, that scary. It was. We stopped 3-4 times on motorways because I had diarrhea. I was feeling nauseous. I was feeling sick. I was hungry, but I couldn't eat. And I was thinking that, no, Aunee's not going to be changing. Aunee's saying all that. I could see the strong when after later on in time she was saying a lot of things to me. I could see that. There was a lot of change in Aunee. But I was thinking, is this change going to last?
So you, as a mum, so you've had chaos before she went to rehab. You had chaos and so much pressure on you, so much pressure on your relationship, so much pressure on the grandchildren, so much pressure on the children. There was just so much going on at this time because of Aunee's behaviour when she was going through her addiction. And so when she was in rehab, for you it was like respite, I guess. So for you it's like, I've got my life back.
Yeah, but it wasn't though, was it? It wasn't respite because she's fearing that she's going to get that phone. So even though Aunee's in treatment or rehab, it's not, is it?
And that's where it was taken to, that fear of having that time, not having that fear, like that I've got to be giving her a drink, I've got to be controlling this, I've got to be locking the doors, I've got to be all of this. You've had the respite away from that, but all of a sudden, you're going to pick her up and now you think, my life's going to go back the way it was.
Yeah.
So I bet that was a...
Yeah, and to go back again, we were talking about it, when I used to lock her in the house, and Aunee was saying that I'll set the house to fire and all that. I used to be worried. Then what we started doing, then we started locking her outside, and she would say, I'll stay out. And it used to be freezing cold, and I used to wrap Aunee, because I knew that Aunee's going to be cold, and I used to go to work, but when I used to be at work, I was thinking, it's freezing outside, and my daughter's chosen to be outside to drink, and when I used to come back home, Aunee would be drunk, it'd be cold, she'd have no socks on her feet, she'd be all wet. It was the same thing, whether to keep her in the house, whether to keep her, I chucked her out. Once I packed all the suitcase and and I thought Aunee's gone. Do you know what she did? There is, where we live behind it, there is a field. So Aunee opened up a suitcase and she used to sleep in the suitcase. But we never slept. We were worried and we were thinking. Then we used to go round, look for Aunee. When Aunee used to leave home, we used to go around. Every day became a chore, like a duty. I'd come home, Aunee's not there, I'd go around the park. My husband would go the other side, I'd go look for Aunee. Every day. Religiously we used to do that. Then somebody saw that there's a girl, Indian girl living in this field, and she's sleeping in this suitcase. And they brought her, and when she brought her home, Aunee was just crying. I was crying. I was thinking, what's happening to my daughter? And, as you said that, when Jazz said that, I was thinking the respite, you don't, because I told you that a couple of times, I'll be honest with you, a couple of times, that's when I got help from Ellie. A couple of times I literally did go downstairs. I took pills out and I wanted to commit suicide. I took all the pills out. I laid all the pills out on the table. And I said, that's it. I can't see Aunee, so I'm going to that. I want to do that. And I was trying to pop the pills. And then, I don't know, I thought of my younger daughter. I thought of my other daughter. And then I thought, I can't do this to my other children.
Is this while Aunee was in Nottingham?
No. Rehab.
No, not in rehab. Before that, the rehab that when she was going through, and then I was just thinking of doing that. Twice I did that, and as I said that when Aunee went in rehab, even then I was very much drained. was very much drained. And you say you don't see it as respite. You just think that she's there, but I was always expecting bad worse to happen.
And if you had your mum... Sorry, Jazz. I'll let you go, mate. I'm talking a lot.
There's so much to say. And I just, I want to take the focus off that a little bit now. I just want to. So when you came out of Nottingham rehab, you know, you must have had moments where crazy moments, but it obviously must have been very difficult for you in the early days.
Coming back home,
Yeah.
I was petrified to come back to Leicester.
Yeah.
Can you imagine? I was petrified to go to rehab, and now I was petrified to come back because I'd met Aunee for the first time, and I wasn't the same Aunee that I walked into rehab as. I'd come out as this complete different woman, you know, and I was scared about going back into the same environment. You know, I had no boundaries. Now I wrote like a 10-page assignment on boundaries, you know, and I was like, how am I going to implement this? Am I going to stay committed to the person that I am? So all these things going through my head. Although I couldn't control what was going to happen, I made one promise to myself. I promised myself that I would stay committed to the Aunee that I'd become. And that's all I could do, you know, and so I just stayed committed to the Aunee that...
And what was that like for you, Asmita, when Aunee came out and you saw her growth, saw her, you know, the commitment that she made to herself? You could see that surface, you could see that happening.
Yeah, I just saw another side of Aunee. This is strong, you know, this line is, whoa. I thought, oh my God. She would just speak and she would just go on, and she was so
And the
committed.
confidence.
And I thought, oh, what's happened to this Aunee?
You say, well, what did they do to you in rehab?
Yeah.
And like, I don't know.
Asmita, when you first, we did the podcast, it was through, it was in COVID. We did the podcast, wasn't it, at Turning Point?
I'd come out of rehab, so
Yeah.
I don't know, actually.
Yeah. So when you heard the podcast and when you saw Aunee's first interview on the Seek channel, how did you feel about that?
I felt absolutely, you know, awesome into her journey to see that, you know, Aunee wasn't scared, Aunee wasn't shy, Aunee wasn't ashamed, Aunee was Aunee and speaking the truth. And I think giving that opportunity, I thought that was a voice for many other people that, you know, who were going through that. Aunee gave that chance to opportunity. I'll be honest with you, you know, Aunee's been telling me for a very long time that, Mom, Jazz wants to do a podcast with you. Dilesh wants to do that. Why don't, you know, what do you want to? I would say to her, yes. But I was like, fear, that, you know, that worry. Again, that judgment. I'll be honest with you, that judgment today, even that little bit of cloud was lingering around. I'm going to be honest with you, thinking, you know, if I'm going to go, if I say this, you know, if I'm going to be open about it, how will people say, what will they? But then there's another one saying that, does it really matter? No. Is it about other people? No. So I think education and affirmation to yourself that it's not about other people, it's about what's happening to your doorstep. What can you do to help? That's the most important thing. And going back, I'm sorry, retracting back, you know, when Aunee was going through alcohol addiction, and when Dilesh said to us, to keep Aunee alive, you have to give her a drink. Oh my God. That was the worst thing ever. I used to think, how can this... What is he talking about?
Yeah, you did. You said that to me.
I said, what are you talking about? And Dilesh goes, yes, you want to see Aunee alive? You will have to. You'll have to give her a drink. Otherwise, you know, and I used to come back, and when I said, and then we had to listen to him, because I knew that Dilesh is talking right. His expertise, he's been dealing with it. But there was a moment to think, is this guy saying the truth? Is he really? And I would ring him and he'd say, yes, you have to. You have to do that. And for us as parents to give Aunee a drink from our hand, to give poison,
It's painful, wasn't it?
to give poison to my daughter to keep her alive. You know, I wouldn't want anyone to go through this. Trust me, I wouldn't. But I had to listen to Dilesh, and I think that kept Aunee alive. Otherwise, yeah.
Because I'd seizure, hadn't I?
Yeah.
I had when I...
That time I used to think, Dilesh, Popat, what are you talking about?
Crazy
Stop
man.
it, stop it. Give me a pill. I used to think, I used to say, Dilesh, give us a pill. Dilesh, it doesn't work like that.
Yeah.
It's years of inner trauma. It's years, this is a disease. Asmita, this is years of disease. I said, no. There must be. I used to research for pills.
Yeah.
I thought I'll give only pills, remember?
Yeah.
And Dilesh said to me, if you do that, then I won't work with Aunee. I won't, because this is not how I work. Dilesh goes, I don't work like this. You want Aunee to be alive? We will send her to rehab. And I said, send her to rehab. He goes, doesn't work like that.
Asmita, you've had quite a journey yourself. You know, I know you have as well, Aunee. You know, ever since I met you, we've had a lot of chats together. We've had a lot of laughs together. But you know, listening to you today, do you know there's going to be people listening to you, Aunee, watching this? They're going to have a lot of admiration for you. They're going to have a lot of love for you. And you know, it's very brave what you're doing, and your honesty, you know, and the integrity that you've done it with, it's just, honestly, it's admirable.
I'm so proud of you. I really am so proud of you.
Proud of
You'll
you.
be helping so many other parents out there who are suffering in silence.
And that's what I wanted to say to you. There is mums just like you. You know, everything you've said, there will be mothers listening and watching
Yeah.
that will understand.
Yeah.
Every single word you've said will resonate with them. What do you want to say to those mums?
I want to say to everyone who's going through this, I would say to them that seek help. There is help there. And listen to the expertise, you know, listen to the advice. There's no magic pill, as I've said to Dilesh. There's no magic pill. And work with the person who's going through this. Help them, you know, forget about everything else. You know, there are help there, you know. Through one network, you do find. Through Backings Nottingham, I found you. From you, I found you. And from you, there's a rehab. And we've got to look at this as a disease, and we've got to work with that. But if you love that person, do everything that you can. There's nothing you cannot do. You've got to turn every stone. As I said, you know, people say there are no resources. I agree, there are no resources. Hospitals, they don't have any resources, but there are, you know, communities. There are, you know, cohesions that are into this prospect groups that you can do that. But find help. Don't be ashamed. This is not to be ashamed about. This is not something to be embarrassed about. You know, there are help there, and seek that help. You want to save your loved one? Save them.
And I think it's, you know, I think you mentioned it before, and it's only something I learned about when I came into recovery, and I understood what I put my family through, and I learned to them, we talk a lot about it now, it's a family disease, isn't it?
Yeah.
And that's something we don't understand. And you know, Aunee, you know, what would you like to say to someone who's listening to you and watching this as well, you know, who's been through a similar journey to you? What would you want to say to that person who's watching and struggling maybe?
I just would like to say that you may feel like you're worthless, you may feel so ashamed and guilty, and you may feel like there isn't life without the substance, and it's the substance that actually is your best friend or your solace. In fact, there's a whole life waiting for you, trust me. You just don't realise, you don't realise what you're going to become or what you're going to do. I would never have envisaged that this is the Aunee that I was going to become 3.5 years ago. If you told me you're not going to be drinking for 3.5 years, you're going to be achieving this, you're going to be speaking about addiction. I couldn't even call myself an alcoholic at that point. You know, now I say it with such pride. I'd be like, don't mess about, like whatever. But, you know, the transformation is absolutely phenomenal.
And I think the amazing thing is you're a volunteer for the Sleep Recovery Network, and people actually reach out to Aunee. Yeah. Females have reached out.
Yeah, my mum.
Not just females, but males.
Yeah.
They reach out because they identify with the illness and the disease.
Yes.
Rather than and I think it's fabulous, and you have become a role model. For a lot of women, you have become a role model.
And I think for me as well, listening to the story, I don't know if you have had this opportunity to speak to your mum directly about what she did to get you help.
In a controlled manner,
I'm quite
in a controlled environment.
What is, if you had something like just to be direct to your mum with what she's done and how much effort she put and all of that, what she spoke about today, I'd like you to talk to your mum directly about how you feel about that today.
I just want to say that I love you so much and thank you so much. You know, you saved my life. It's not even just to save my life. My mum and dad, since I've come out of rehab, they have pushed me to find my own success. They've helped me find my wings. They've helped me to fly. They've supported me so much. And I'll be forever grateful, you know. I'm really grateful for everything that you've done for me. I just and it's nice to see you grow. Since I've come out of rehab, I've watched a change in you as well. I've watched you become more confident in yourself. I've watched you flourish. It's almost like we grew together, you know, and it's beautiful. But thank you, you know.
And Jazz and Dilesh, I don't know whether I'll be, this is right for me to say, but I always say I'm going to send this message to all the family, parents, mothers, daughters. I'm going to say to them that whenever you are going through this, and if you have any family members, any relatives, any friends who tell you negative, like, oh, what this one will say, keep away from them. Stick with those who say, you know, what can we do? How can we help you? Let's do that. Stick with those.
And what I'd like you to do is me to look directly to that camera and all them people that said to you all them negative things
Yes.
and all them things that Aunee would never change and you're not doing this. What is your message directly to them people?
My message, I did like, look, I did it. And then because I diminished all the negativity from everybody else and I focused on my daughter alone, I got my daughter back. And that's the love of my life. That's my child. And I wasn't letting anyone take away from that. And as a mom, as anyone who's fighting for that, my message to everyone is stay away from negative people. Don't listen to them. It's nothing about society. It's a disease. Fight for it. Learn and then, you know, make that change for yourself, for whoever is suffering to that. And be that strong bond for them. And you'll see, life will give you back. And it's given me back. There's my Aunee there, doing her masters, final masters.
Wow. That's amazing, isn't it? To hear that, you're doing your final, is it masters?
Well, it's because I said to Mum, I'm not studying anymore after this. That's what I say.
And you know, there's so much still to talk about, isn't there? And there's so much growth to come with Aunee and with yourself. And, you know, no doubt we will talk again. And there'll be so much more to talk about.
Of course we will. Doubt. Of course we will.
And I think, Aunee, you know, with the work the Sikh Recovery Network's doing, you know, in collaboration with Turning Point, you know, there's a lot you've still got to offer with the Sikh Recovery Retreats.
Yes.
We've got one coming up in August. We want to make that a mixed retreat where women, we know a lot of women are suffering. So people like you who've come out the other end will have a lot to offer. So you'll be invited to that.
Well, thank you.
And
I'll be coming. I'll accept now.
yeah, can't go back on that, not that you would. But, you know, one final thing is, you know, the podcast is called Under the Influence. Under the Influence. So what are you under the influence today?
Success.
Yeah.
Just living my life. Healthy, happy and successful.
Asmita.
Admiration and being strong.
Wow. Dilesh.
After this podcast, just love again. It's always love. I'm just full of love because this is where I sat there for so long. And there was just a big break in the middle, and that was the addiction. And to now actually see the love.
And how does this make you feel?
Yes.
You know, and I mean, it makes me feel really proud, if I'm honest. You put a lot of, I know you put a lot of hours and energy into Aunee.
He still does.
I still.
I'm glad you've sort of spoke like that because it gave me time to think. For me, this is why I do what I do.
Yeah.
This is why I wake up every single morning. I said this before, there is no better feeling in this world than seeing somebody achieve, overcome and adapt all the adversities in life, because we all have them. We all have so many issues that we go with battles. Every single day is a battle. But when you can actually witness somebody come through them battles and succeed through them battles, as she said, success. There's no better feeling than that. And I'm a part of this journey, and we're all a part of this journey. It's just great to actually say. I think we all feel the same.
Can I just say something? You know, like I've talked a lot about what my recovery's done for me and what recovery's been like for me. But as we said, active addiction is a family disease. Active recovery also affects the family. So I just wanted to ask my mum, what has my recovery, what has been the impact of my recovery on you, on us?
The impact of your recovery it's been amazing. It's been wonderful to see you that you, I don't know, you have just You just change. You are so strong in what you believe in, and for you as well. When I see that, every time when I think about recovery, about you, I see that how you have empowered yourself, and for me to see that my daughter sustains that, to see your journey growing. With your journey, we are all growing behind you, your sisters, your children, and we are like a chain. Beta, you are a chain that got eroded from somewhere, and it just got stuck somewhere, and you've come back again, and you've come back stronger, and you're pulling us with you, and that's an amazing thing for, I think, anyone.
Well, that's recovery, right? That is recovery. The power of recovery.
It is.
Yeah. Because before you were like an anchor. When you were in addiction, you took us down. You stayed down, and we were suffocating. And now that you're out, and you're a strong chain that's bond us. And I want to say, really, thank you from bottom of my heart to you, Dilesh. You are such a inspiration to Turning Point. You are an asset to Turning Point. You have made an amazing, journey with Aunee. You've given, I'm saying this to you, but you've given my Aunee back a life. She's alive because of you. And I'm rightly to say that, and through, Seek Recovery as well. And your name is always in our house. So Dilesh, Aunee always says that, and I'm glad you are part of our life as well. You are part of our home. Although you may not be in our house, but you are there. And Jazz, you are as well. So thank you, Jazz, and thank you, Dilesh. Thank you.
No, thank you. And I just want to just echo something Aunee's mum said earlier. She reached out, and his mum reached out, whether it's to me or to Turning Point. Just reach out if you're struggling and suffering, whether you're a family member or you're the addict yourself. Reach out. There is help there. Honestly, there's a lot of help there. People like Aunee are willing to give up their time, because the only way she's going to keep what she's got today is by giving it away. Turning Point, you've just heard what Aunee's mum said, about Turning Point and the work people like Dilesh are doing in the community. The Seek Recovery Network, we're not here for the Sikhs. The Seek Recovery Network was born because there was a gap in the existing services, but we support people from the Hindu community, the Gujarati community, English community, Muslim community. So if you need any help, you can contact the Seek Recovery Network, and we can put you in touch with people like Dilesh and Turning Point. But just reach out. I just want to say a big thank you to you, Asmita, honestly, from the bottom of my heart. It's been so brave of you, and the way you spoke so eloquently, and so bravely and so freely today. It's just so.
And in Gujarat, as you just mentioned, in Gujarati community, people don't like to talk. No. It's all about, social dilemma. What will that happen? No, this kind of things doesn't happen. Oh, no. My son doesn't. He just drinks on social occasion. Oh, it's okay. Yeah, it's one. And they try to wishy-washy about it, never to talk about it. So I am from a Gujarati family, and I think Gujarati family, there is an issue, and they need to address this, and they need to speak out and reach out for their loved ones.
Second podcast soon to come.
Yeah. But Aunee, thank you to you again as well for allowing this to happen today as well.
Thank you.
And it's been, for me personally, it's been amazing to be part of your journey and to see you grow and grow and grow.
I just want to say thank you to you. You give me these fabulous platforms where I can have my voice heard. I'll be honest, I said it to you earlier before this even started rolling. That first interview I did, that was the beginning. That was the birth of this Aunee, who's not afraid to speak.
It's just, it's just.
I've just carried on.
Just to be a joy to be part of this new Aunee. But no, once again, thank you. And until next time, until we do our next episode with Aunee and Asmita.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.